construct. We're getting nowhere, and the bottom line doesn't cut it now. So now I got so many times now. You think I'd see a cycle now, but then it turns around and says, some nights we said that we could never survive this. It's gonna take everything we've got just to hold our punches, and we have got to be blind if we think it's over now. And we could never survive this. It's gonna take everything we've got just to hold our punches, and we have got to be blind. Some days.
This is for you and all the things that we've been through. I know you're wrong about the last time that we ever spoke aloud. Don't let your own goodbyes, don't let them own you always. You know you're right, that's why you run away. Two things we couldn't be together now. We're not lonely. All I have is much better when you look at it
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Bacicolio Streams, and today we're having a build stream. Now, I debated a long time whether or not to actually stream this, but then considering the nature of these streams as a whole, I ultimately decided that success stories need to be highlighted as much as the failures. Maybe this will give some helpful pointers on what not to do, and probably give you ideas on what to do in order to avoid the said failures. Now, in this case, what we're talking about is the fact that the pinning project with Sticky Tack, well, that failed. It failed miserably in that the connections are way too flimsy, and these models would not stand a whole game. They wouldn't probably stand the transportation, and playing with them would be a nightmare. So the ultimate decision would be to regress to gluing them. And so in this stream, this is what I will be doing. I will be scraping off all of the sticky tack, removing the pins, and simply gluing the parts together and doing some finishing touch-ups for the build phase, such as drilling barrels, and maybe putting a little bit of plastic putty to fill in any gaps that may open in case the joints don't come in flush against each other. I thought about it long and hard. I tried to the very last moment to ensure that this can actually work, and probably under the right circumstances it can, with more precise drilling, longer pins, and a more strategic placement of the sticky tack. However, that would require far too much effort than it's actually worth, and also skill and precision that I do not possess. So ultimately, what we'll do is just make standard miniatures in this case. Therefore, the weapons would not be switchable, and loadouts will not be exchangeable unless I opt for proxying, which isn't the perfect case scenario, but whatever. It's sad to do this. It's sad because there are a lot of weapon options on the sprues. For instance, even after building 6 of these guys, I still have a few weapons left on the sprue. So we have the rivet gun, which is a really cool thing that I will definitely be putting on another ganger. Also the renderizer, which is a really cool axe. And this is all part of the first sprue, and using 2 additional Goliaths. So 2 Goliaths from the second sprue, leaving me essentially with 4 more. No, so these are just the one? No. There should be 10 Goliaths. Yeah, 10. So after these ones, I have there are 6, so 4 more. Yeah, that's right. My brain is mush following today's workday. So yeah, probably in order to use all of the weapons, and these are not including the upgrade sprue from Forge World, which I also have, so it'll definitely come to having to buy more bodies for them in order to get the full range of accessories possible, or at least a decent amount, which will become more apparent after the first games have been played. Now the biggest issue with all of this is this guy. The issue being the shoulder blade is mounted a bit too low, preventing a flush connection with the arm. So I will have to try and snap this. Let me show you. Try and snap this shoulder blade off. Glue the arm that needs to go there and reapply the shoulder pad afterwards. Now the way I see it, I will probably break the shoulder pad, which will be a shame. But as usual, any structural damage to the model can be hopefully put down as battle damage. And since I will be weathering these guys quite a bit, it might not be as bad. But still, breaking off miniatures. Hey, Pig in Space, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. Just catch you up really quick. Me, I'm a bit disappointed since the pinning project with Sticky Tack failed, and this is exactly what I've been talking about these past few minutes. That this is effectively a damage control failure stream. But considering that I want to highlight all of my successes and my failures in the hobby, I thought it would be best to actually put this on camera instead of just hide it from the populace. So today I'll just be scraping away all of the sticky tack, removing the pins, and plain and simply gluing everything together, because this just does not work. It will not work on the table at all. Like, it will not survive carrying, it will not survive the character being placed prone, it'll just fall apart and won't work. Now, possibilities for fixing this would have been to drill finer holes for the pins, create more tension in pinning them using more precise and longer pins, but that requires A, too much time to do, and B, skills that I have not yet acquired. So today is damage control day, to put it simply, and I will also be testing out a different kind of super glue that I haven't used before, and again creating chances to either be successful or fail at it. And in this case, this will be the gel version of super glue for this brand. I haven't ever used the gel instant glues. There is arguments that it might be good for the larger surfaces, such as gluing the legs to the feet to the bases, gluing the arms, and so on. And theoretically, I think that the only thing that would not benefit for gel is very fine detail work, such as the cigar, as you remember, that I've been putting on one of the dudes, as well as the faces, simply because it will make too thick of a gap, too thick of a film. It will create a gradient that will not allow the parts to snap together well. However, since I have already drilled most of these, and they are larger, the bonding agent might actually work to my advantage, and if not, I have also prepared some plastic putty to fill in any gaps from the gluing. And that's about it. I've been looking through the rules. Finally, I made a list of the Goliath so that I'd be ready to play. I did manage to squeeze in 1,000 points for these 6 guys, so Initially, I won't need to make any more bodies. So we'll see. Hopefully at the end of this stream, these guys will finally be ready, although unpainted, to go on a table. So yeah, just final gathering of courage to start unmaking everything I've been making so far. Quite frankly, they are very similar to 40k, 7th edition, 6th and 7th edition 40k. So if you have any memory of them, it will be very intuitive. So most of the character profiles. Alrighty. Fair enough. Well, I can't quite. I haven't. I started paying interest to tabletop 40k at 6th, so I don't really know if what are the changes. But either way, the profiles are similar and the actions are similar. There are some difference in terms of activation, sequencing, but nothing too serious. Mostly just aimed to make a skirmish game more robust and more versatile for smaller model counts. It looks good. So far I haven't seen anything bad. Although the amount of dice rolling is, well, abysmal. Which kind of takes pressure off of the game in a lot of ways. I always treat more dice reliant games as fun games, and more skill-reliant games as actual competitions. For instance, War Machine and Hordes is a rather competitive one because there are a million ways in which you can mediate and control the outcome of the dice and make them work in your favor. Whereas here it'll be mostly just throwing dice, including the fact that there is no pre-measuring. So until you actually develop a feeling for distances, you'll be more likely to fire in the dark. But it'll be fun, should be fun, looks fun. And I think verticality is also better implemented. What is? Well, no, here there is no pre-measuring, so you declare the action and then you measure up to yeah. Well, 40k would be pretty difficult without pre-measuring, but oh, okay. Because you look at the ruler outside of the gaming and you actually assess on eye whether or not it will apply. I think this is a rather this is one of these challenges that get easier with the game, since you just become more space aware, so you are able to eye distances. Should be fine. Also, there are group activations and so on. I am a bit overwhelmed by the amount of profiles that I'll have to learn, since each character can hold up to 3 weapons, and in addition to that you have war gear and equipment and the character profile itself, so it means you need to remember about 5 to 6 stat lines for each. Probably at the end, yeah. Probably, they usually are. yeah, they usually are, but still. There will be a lot of checking in the beginning. It'll be more reading than playing. But that's how most games start off. Well, most games that we start trying out. Yeah, but since this will be the first faction that I play, everything will be new. So let's get down to it right away, shall we? So start by scraping off all of the sticky tack. Not that I can't straight up glue everything, but why not? Make it usable for a later time, for another project. That'd be better thought out. Yeah, I am a bit confused about having to glue things together again. On one side, it's a pity that I won't be able to accurately represent every single loadout. But on the other hand, these models look great, and turning them into, well, Lego pieces is actually taking away from their aesthetic. Ultimately, while not as useful as representative, they will look better aesthetically. I have built the list based on what weapons I have equipped, and it did work out. Hey there, Olaf Slayer, thanks very much for the follow. Hope I didn't butcher your name. Welcome to the show. Feel free to come over in the chat and introduce yourself. Hey. How are you doing? In case you're wondering what the hell I'm doing, essentially just making some damage control on a failed idea. Oh, that's awesome. Which team are you playing now?
Well, they built their walls, yeah, I ripped that down. Ain't nothing getting in my way. When the madness screams inside me.
Champions of Death. Is that the GW kit for the undeads? Awesome. Also a full family of Blood Bowlers. It's awesome. I'm currently painting the Norse team from Kickstarter that I backed. However, today, for diversity's sake, I'm going over the Necromunda Goliath theme. Well, gang. That we should start off playing pretty soon with the local group. Oh, awesome. I have the starter for Wild West, but never really... Yeah. Those tales are notorious, aren't they? Have you actually had the chance to... Well, as I said, anything that breaks off of a model during the build phase, you can always write off as battle damage, so it'll be fine. Yeah, if it happens during the tournament, it sucks, but during the build phase, you can work around. It's annoying as all hell, but manageable. That's good to hear. Have you had the chance to try out Wild West, actually playing it? Because my models are still on the sprue, and I wonder how do the rules play out? Is it fun, or is it very bogging down with the amount of rules and the D10s and whatnot? Alright, so not all that bad. I mean, depending on your opinion of Sigmar. Okay. So one more game in the projects pile that I would need to attend at some point. Oh shit. Well, I suppose I'll get to it eventually. Probably not this year though. Let's just be realistic. Right, okay, so on its own, so-so. Fair enough. Have you personally had any experience with magnetizing or pinning miniatures? As this is pretty much what's causing my heart to bleed at this point. Maybe you can give us some advice or just share experiences.
Coincidence has always been a friend to me. I always seem to wind up where I'm meant to be. Through furious infernos,
Yeah, you don't need that for Blood Bowl, and this is one of the reasons why I enjoy playing around with the teams. Right. And it's been a while since I've painted or put together anything that isn't Blood Bowl related in any way. So this is sort of a fun way to keep the hobby juices flowing, just alternate a little bit here and there, diversify. And my initial idea was to magnetize these dudes, since they come with a very large variety of weapon loadouts, and since Necromunda is more or less an RPG with equipments and loadouts, I wanted to be able to accurately represent these loadouts. However, the way that the models are built are awesome if you want to put them together to stick, but are a nightmare if you want to magnetize them. So what I did was I decided to use oh, bolt action requires magnetizing. That's weird. I thought they came with pre-prepared squad loadouts. Well, shows just about how much I know, yeah. And I decided to use a very weird combination of pinning and sticky tack. Just buy more models. Yeah, well, that's what it's going to come down to, isn't it? I was hoping to get around it, but nope. I have to scour eBay for bodies. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. And right away, that is, but so just to finish up my thought, I decided to use pins and sticky tack to make the weapons swappable. However, that proved to be a very flimsy connection, and it'll just not work out. So I will go back to just gluing them, which means 2 or 3 streams of drilling and pinning essentially just gone to waste. But oh well. If you're wondering, I am very much a beginner in the hobby, and so I'm just showing off my attempts at doing things, including successes and failures. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you win some, you lose some, but the important thing is to come out with a bit more knowledge on the matter and maybe get a bit of skill along the way. I'll also be trying out a new, well, a different type of super glue to give myself a chance to screw up again and horribly mutilate these models. But we'll see how it goes. Now the main reason I'm scraping out the Oh, did he make him swappable? That's cool. Just to remove as much excess material as possible so that I will glue them together flush. Oh, that's nice. Now, see, if you do have the surface to drill, like a flat surface that you can get a 3mm drill bit in, then magnetizing is perfectly fine. But when you don't have a flush surface, that makes things a bit more of a challenge. Yeah. I used to magnetize some 40K models, and aside from being very sloppy with the drill holes, there wasn't that much of a problem in there. Okay, and now the most painful part, I will need to snap off the shoulder plate because I glued it on way too low, and so the arm, as you may be able to see, will not stand flush in the socket. There, see the horrible gap that opens up. Oh really, so he may have been using smaller magnets than the standard. Because the usual ones are 3mm in diameter. Oh, snapped right off. No structural damage sustained. Well, that just goes to show that my gluing is shit as well. But hopefully, in this case, it works in to my advantage. By the way, all of Slayer, we also share pictures here, so if you have any pictures of work in progress on your team, you are more than welcome to share them with everyone else. I will pull them up and we can take a look. Yeah, alright, that's how it will go. Yeah. Regardless if they are still in the build stage or if you have started putting Wicked. No, everything, pretty much anything that you currently are working on and have any sort of passion about, you're more than welcome to share it with us. Now I was thinking, oh yeah, barrels. Also, let us know if you have any overall musical theme preferences, because so far no one really has complained, but if you hate it particularly much, I can change at least the style of whatever it is that we're listening to, because this particular one sort of grinds my nerve endings a bit. It got better. So as usual, when drilling barrows, we will put in a small pilot hole, trying not to get my fingers cut off. That's interesting. To tell you the truth, I haven't really seen that small... Well, actually, no, I think I have. But it was a long time ago, and I don't think many people have used them. What I have seen them used for is in models like this one, where the wrists were actually separate details. So you can just take out and put in different weapons without changing the entire, without swapping the entire arms. The whole arms. Yeah, that probably works. And it would... yeah. Now the problem here is just with the arms themselves, because here they aren't as formulaic as the 40k borders, and so even if I did cut them, there would be nothing to replace the gun with that would fit that exact slot. Either way, we are now applying drill to pilot hole. I won't be going too deep. Just to make a sufficiently visible hole. As it is mostly for an aesthetic purpose. Well, mostly. Actually, it's entirely. For aesthetics, it holds no practical value. I just make sure we have a good clean hole. As dirty as that may have sounded. And now we can move on to the gluing. I'll be trying out this gel super glue, which will hopefully not ruin everything. I think that I should really actually pick up some super glue dissolver in order to make fixing mistakes a bit easier. Wonder how it comes out. Go on then. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it went through, twisting the cap on. Pierces the thingamajigger. There is a decent working time with it. Yeah, it perforates when you twist the cap on. It's all good. It's all fine. We already got too much on this. Me without my toothpicks. Oh well. I guess I'll be using this then. Yeah, to be completely honest, I like it. So far. It doesn't spill as much. And there appears to be a bit of a longer working time before it sets in, giving me a bit of time to fit the piece together. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Again, aside from very fine details such as glowing faces, multi-part faces, I don't think that there will be a need to use a different type of glue. So there we go. Probably not the best choice of armaments for these guys, but what I got, that's what I put, that's what I'll deal with. Just give a second to the glue to dry off, and meanwhile I'll be applying some for the shoulder pad. Yeah, maybe I should have. Oh, shit. Should have put this arm before the hammer holding arm. the shit. Okay. Oh, reapply, reglue, give it more time to actually take hold. Yeah, as I said, my choice of loadout is not the best. Neither functionally nor thematically. But in my defense, when I was picking out the stuff... Yeah, it is. But he can wield... So there are 3 weapon slots for each character. Meaning that a 2-handed weapon takes up 2 slots, but he still has 1 left. And so I gave him the combi pistol. Combi plasma and bolter. Right. So this will now be left to dry off a bit. In the meantime, I can try and do a dry fit. What about his wrist? I don't think I follow. But yeah, so far, gel super glue is not bad at all. Ah, yeah, you mean the waist? Yeah, that's how it was done in 40k, if I'm not wrong. They did have, especially with Dark Vengeance, they had the models with both bolters and bolt pistols, and the bolters were mounted on the back, on the backpack. He's a big burly guy. I trust he will be able to wield this thing single-handedly. Leave this to dry. And then I'll place the shoulder plate. Coincidentally, this will be my leader for the gang. It does have a longer drying time. Which is both a blessing and a curse, I suppose. Because you do have more time to fit the pieces but then it'll take more time to actually get the model workable again. Actually might move on to a different model until I actually go back for the shoulder plate. And this pin. Why did I remove just one pin? Weird. Haha, I actually do have a toothpick. Wicked. Because yeah, smearing glue all over the tool I used to scrape off the excess, whatchamacallit, sticky tack. Probably not the best of ideas. So let's just scrape off the glue from the tool. I did try to make my own sticky tack. There were some instructions on the internet, but the result was less than satisfactory. Yeah, indeed. This is why I mentioned that essentially the past 2 streams dedicated to building the Goliaths were just a waste. And also it will make me more comfortable with experimenting with the skin shades, the skin tones. So I will be more comfortable with painting darker and lighter skin tones on the different gangers without the fear that a different loadout will constitute a different shade of skin for the body. Back to scraping. The second reason I'm cleaning off the sticky tack is that, as you can probably see, there is quite a big ball already forming from the material. And why be wasteful? Also, hey Tanif, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. How can we help?
Under a silver sky, I wonder.
Yeah.
These broken highways have become my
Right. I saw on Facebook today. Let me just bring this up. The other day, and I thought about forwarding them to you, but I refreshed the page and it just went all away. Right, so this is the guy. And there they tried with the turquoise armor, and it was an undead team as well. And what they did was use parchment-like colors, so desaturated off-whites such as Xandri dust for the base of the texture parts. By the way, he's awesome. Just saying. And the purple tongue is a very nice touch. Yeah, it's the same photo. Right. I think that if you just apply another layer of Agrax on the reddish, it should be fine. Shouldn't be bad. Oh, not to worry. I have been thinking about it ever since you mentioned it, so... Even in this current shade, I don't think that it'll be overwhelming when you put the turquoise over the metallics, because it'll be really bright and the reddish shouldn't detract too much from the focus. But quite frankly, I think it should be tested. Yeah, these exact ones. These are the ones that I checked out. So you see, even a bright color such as this one still doesn't detract too much from the armor, although it does, since the armor is heavily washed, it doesn't have the shine that it would. Yeah, it's exactly that one. And it sort of brings the focus to the straps. So if you don't overwash the metallics, I think they will be able to dominate as a focal point. Or in case you like this shade of color, just wash it down again. Yeah, it's not. There haven't been any highlights on the metallic before applying the turquoise. You're right. Yeah. Well, you're doing the same, right? Oh, you're very welcome. Hopefully that did help at least a tiny amount. I've also been looking for the hydraulics for the robot legs that we've spoken with Pig in Space about, but I haven't been able to find anything yet. Hmm. Xandri is darker than what has been used in these pictures. They were quite a bit brighter. But yeah, if there will be many things that will pop out, such as... Right. I think that in this case, just go with it and wash it a couple of times with Agrax. You don't need too many points that pop out. This is my only concern about going with reddish or brownish in this case. Cheers. Oh, and just to let you know, I did manage to fill out 1,000 points with the 6 gangers. I made the list. So as soon as I stick these guys together, they'll be good to go. Yeah, I ended up with 1 leader, 1 champion, and 4 gangers. And I just loaded them up with weapons to the teeth, giving out dum-dum rounds and respirators like it's Christmas. Also grenades. So hopefully, again, by the end of the stream, these guys will be good to go. Okay, there is a barrel to be drilled here. Alrighty, thanks for joining. Have fun. Don't roll a 1. Yeah, words to live by. So for the stub things, I will be using the bigger drill. They appear to have a wider barrel. And I think that I'll be using the same method that Ethan have just suggested with the color over metallic on the Iron Man type steampunk dwarfs for Blood Bowl. I think it only does make sense that they have the Iron Man color scheme. Having all the repulsors and whatnots. Now about this guy. Maybe, just maybe, should put something to raise his step up a bit. Make him... Do I have anything I can use for terrain?
When the final hymns have been composed and the chants become a distant
Because his face is pointing downward, and if I glue him on like that, he will look a bit weird. So the idea being to put him something like that. Ish. Or not, he may just be charging hit first. That is the guy with the recovered face anyway, so it's not much of a sight to look at anyway. I'll probably just put him on as intended. Yeah, but he'll be looking down, so people won't be horrified of his disfigured upside down neck that I had to do for him after I mangled the face. Here we have a pin. Extract that real quick. Or not as quick. As in this case, the arm that he's going with, which is this big wrench-like hammer, or hammer-like wrench. I think it's called a spud jack. It kind of works for him to be the position of it, or the works in his favor to be having these slow build-up lumbering charges. You'll see what I mean.
is not the end, she says. She's drenched in blood.
Because it goes to the back. See?
Laugh and say, good God, are you crazy?
Yes, well, I think that I used enough words to emphasize on the lack of speed. So this arm will be charging forward. Yeah, it makes sense. Sort of firing blindly as he charges to clear a path for the target. I don't know. A bit of artistic interpretation never hurt no one. Right, so let's go back to the glue. Will I need... Hopefully not. And it also, the gel also nicely fills in smaller gaps. Which is something that I actually hoped for as a side effect. So when that thing is dry, I should be able to just scrape it off, scrape the excess off, and it will give a gap filling bonus aspect. Should being the operative word here. By the way, these are probably the best joint connections I've seen on a model ever. Yes, they are. So the first picture he showed was the one that he's actually working on, the one from the Kickstarter, and the second one was from GW's kit, and it was something that we found on Facebook in reference to what he's trying to do. Yeah, even though they are weird, I don't know, they're kind of like a popular song that you listen to on the radio. The first time you hear it, you don't like it at all, and then the more you look at it or listen to it, the more it sort of starts to grow on you. So at this point I am reaching the neutral stage, at which I sort of like them, or I sort of don't hate them. But the skinks that were shown today, I didn't like them one bit. But they are stylized. For the mummies, they are stylized versions, and I do appreciate a bit of additional artistic input from the sculptor. So, I don't know. Me personally, if I was building an undead team, I would like something a bit more conventional. Than what they put out, but I wouldn't hate these ones either. Probably. Truth be told, I haven't thought about undeads or necros yet. Considering I have about 5 teams in the works. And considering the blistering speed that I'm going through them. Undead and Necro will be probably 2025. Maybe for the next World Cup. Well, at least one experiment here to work out today. Pretty happy with the glue. I would need to scrape off the excess, but still, pretty fine. Nope, no goblins. I will do it all by myself. If it takes me up to retirement, which it probably will. Either way, once I actually finish with the Norse team, I will allow a bit more diversity and variety, so I might start a couple of teams to paint. I have Bretonians that are ready for painting and have been primed 3 years ago. So for any of you guys that would be watching, it wouldn't seem as monotonous. Oh, same ones. The Florence Knights. The Grebo ones. No surprise there, I guess. I think they are maybe the most common ones. Yeah, a bit weird, but when I saw them, I really liked them, and I just couldn't stop myself from backing the starter. And I did get them in resin instead of metal. From the same starter. The shields are optional. I haven't put shields on mine. They come in. They come as separate pieces, so you can either have them or not have them. It's up to you. And I opted for bare hands on the blockers. Yeah, some are a bit flimsy, but mostly they fit well. The resin ones, I don't think that there will be any problem with them, because they are very light. So instead I start actually bashing them or throwing them around, there shouldn't be an issue about structural integrity.
Smoke over the city soul, pollutes our sons and daughters.
But yeah, I will be breaking things down quite a bit. I will be putting more variety. Building different things at the same time, painting different things at the same time, playing different games at the same time, so that it never gets to the point where it's just, oh, it's the 55th stream of painting the same dude with the same colors over and over again. That will, of course, make the teams get ready at a much slower rate, but oh yeah, it might sound a bit exaggerated, but when you think about it, we are already at the 10th, the next... Yeah, well, supposedly if I manage to put in 3 to 4 streams a week, keeping it consistent will build up my skills, and I will be able to learn to paint a little bit faster. And work faster as well. Otherwise, yeah, it will take a million years to complete them. I think that this comes with time, being able to paint quicker. So hopefully these streams will actually help. Faster, yeah, goblins, yeah. Because before starting to stream, I mostly painted in bursts, meaning I paint every day for, let's say, a couple of weeks, and then I don't paint for a couple of months, meaning that any and all actual skill development I could have had, any improvement in motor skills I could have achieved, just disappears. So every time I sit down to paint a couple of minis, I have to teach my body all over again to hold a brush, to eye out the paint consistencies and so on. So as long as I keep consistent, results should come. And these streams will help with that. And also, keeping things diverse will prevent burnout. So I won't get bogged down with a single color scheme. I don't know, it's worth trying out. But before that, I do need to slog through the Norse team. Not only have I tried it, I actually finished it. It was awesome, and it was a very nice blast from the past. It is, as I suspected, an MTV series, so it got me very riled up to watch Aeon Flux again, or what else was there from that type? Also, the narrative very much reminded me of Todd McFarlane's. Yeah, agreed. Todd McFarlane's Spawn was written in a very similar way to the way Max was made in terms of exposition. And if you haven't watched the Todd McFarlane series for Spawn, I do recommend them. They are the exact same type of gritty with... Yeah. So it was very nice, a very nice suggestion, and thank you very, very much for bringing it up. Turns out I was in a need for a little bit of gritty surrealism. Now, I think that this guy might have some structural issues down the line, so I might have to pin him through the base. But I'll do this when he snaps. Did I manage to offset anything? No, that's fine. Moving on. Yeah, at the end it did get a bit stale, I agree. But the first episodes were very alluring, very catching. And when you're in the mood for that particular type of presentation, you kinda tend to gloss over the imperfections. I do agree, as the series went on, they did get a bit boring, which is a shame considering how short they were. Now, this is something that happens mostly to a very drawn out series with lots of seasons. In this case, it was like, what, 3 seasons with 6 episodes per season? There's absolutely zero reason to hit writer's block or anything like that. Especially considering the amount of source material they have to work with. But it was a bajillion times better than the motion picture, so the live action movie. So I would be willing to give it a pass. There was another title that the Max made me think of, but I can't remember what it was. So Aeon, I think it was another one of the MTV animated series, but I can't remember which ones. Oh yeah, God, what was it? The Violator? Was it The Violator? Because I actually looked into the lore a little bit after watching it, and it turns out this guy has brothers, and they all had sort of similar names, so Desecrator, Violator, what I'm gonna call it, and I forgot which one he actually was. But yeah, he was a cool character, I gotta say. And well executed. Also, his transformation scenes were in the dark, so the horrible CGI wasn't noticeable as much as it was when we got introduced to Malbolgia. Oh yeah, it was full of full of mythical creatures. I don't know, I kind of like Spawn with all of its mythos, and granted it is an edgelordy type thing, and that is sort of looked down upon nowadays. But what the hell? Alright, okay, no worries. Thank you, and thanks again for joining along. Hopefully, next time we speak, I'll have a ready gang of Goliaths. Good night. Well, I say a gang of Goliaths, but it's more more like a best friends get together, considering that there are only 6 of them that I built. Maybe it would be vacation season in the Underhive as well. And the other 4 are somewhere cruising whatever blasted place the vacation spots of a hive planet might be. Yeah, so even the models that I did manage to fit sort of decently with the pins, now that I take the arms off, I see that the pin hasn't worked at all. They've been entirely relying on the sticky tack to be held together. So yeah, absolute failure on that front. Note to self, don't try this again. Unless I can accurately pinpoint where the pins would go. And that's way too much of a bother for me to do. It will require trigonometry and math, and well, for some reason I do not associate these things with fun, which I usually do when it comes to the hobby. Okay, so I won't be scraping any more of that. This barrel apparently requires drilling as well. Hopefully I can get the middle center of it. I did not. Maybe if I widen the hole. It will properly guide the drill bit. Yeah, decent. Started watching Trailer Park Boys, the animated series on Netflix. Well, I do not like it that much. Decent happens to have become an ongoing catchphrase with me. And yeah, going back to the original topic of the Max, was a very nice nostalgic trip to watch that. I have missed it. I had missed it upon its original airing. Never really knew of its existence. It wasn't until I saw quite a bit of it before I actually realized that I had seen some comic book pages with him. And I was wondering whether or not it was a cool character and whether or not I should get invested to see his story and collect the comic books and whatnot. And to tell you the truth, back in these days, if I had done so, I would have been disappointed. Because there is a lot of surrealism and very little actual superhero type stuff in it. And if I was just looking for a quick action fix, that would not have been it. Not by a long shot. Now that I have calmed myself down a little bit, it fit like a glove. Oh, so it was put an interesting spin on some very dark subject matter. I'm not going to go into details here about it, but it covered them pretty decently. Without going too overboard, without going too, well, adequate. Again, surrealism just seems to be the word for this series, and it fit well. It did well. And again, it was a short series, just 13 episodes, 10 to 11 minutes per piece, so it did not overstay its welcome. It didn't have the time to go to get stale or get boring or overwhelming at any point. I miss this about any type of series. When they have an idea, they know how to execute it, and they know what they want to achieve with it, and they do it, and that's it. So they don't go for, if it's successful, they don't go for a million other spin-offs or forcing screenwriting after all of the storylines have been covered. It leaves a nice little cliffhanger, but it does feel complete as well, as in there wouldn't have been much more to say or show. Without ruining it. Yeah, here, because I didn't do it quite as precisely as necessary, there is a noticeable gap between the shoulder and the body. And the plastic putty will need to be deployed. Aside from that though, I will repeat, this kit has the best connections I've seen in any other model kit ever. And there is almost 0% chance that you would mess up the build. Including the most atrocious of all, when both hands are holding onto something and the wrists are separate and are flat, meaning that there is a lot of ways in which you can mess up the build. Here it's been done in a way that just makes so much sense. Yeah, really good kit. And yesterday, as I aligned them, look at them before making the decision to strip them of sticky tack, the more I look at them, the more I like the models themselves. They are simply gorgeous, gorgeous miniatures. Like, it actually inspires me to put paint on them. And I have mentioned this before, and I have been gushing over them for a while now. That doesn't change the fact that they are gorgeous. I did see some pretty nice conversions, but I wouldn't dare actually try and ruin them. For the extra gangers though, I might look into some third-party vendors if they have made any Goliath what's the word I'm looking for? Compatible, Goliath compatible bodies. Not so much to avoid having to buy another box of Goliaths, but more along the lines have some diversity, since they do only have 5 poses, and I will apparently need to have more than 10 gangers, and it could get a wee bit on the boring side. I'd like this to be play withable. So yeah, that's how I will put him on the base. Again, saving grace for this stream as a whole, testing out the gel, super glue. So far, a resounding success story. And I need a little bit of success to pick me up. So maybe, just maybe, if I were to use a toothpick for detailed surfaces, I might actually not ever need the usual type of glue ever again. Too early to say. And yeah, very few gaps to fill. Now the glue marks make it seem like there are larger gaps, but yeah, see here? No, you probably can't see here. But right on the top of the shoulder, the gel actually did fill the gap. It did not reside back. So it does do some small gap filling on my behalf. And unless anyone still has any doubts, I will reiterate that I work extremely slowly for whatever reason, and any and all way that I can speed up without losing quality, I will use it. We got halfway through. And now that I've done this 3 times, I think that the rest of the guys will go a bit quicker. To the point where I may just have a little bit of time to play out the gap filling. I've never used Vallejo stuff. This one. But I have it, and I will try and play with it. Although even so, the straps, the placement of the shoulder straps is such that it doesn't make the gaps stand out. It's again proof of well thought out design, and again a heavy plus from me to whoever was in charge of designing these dudes. Both as sculpts aesthetically and as a construction part. So segmenting them for casting. Massive props. And I do have some big plans for painting them. I'll play around with weathering. I'll finally get to try different flesh tones. I've been doing the same formula over and over again for about 3 years, 4 maybe. There are plenty of small details that can use very bright, very neon-y colors that would work well with the Mohawks or the whole theme. Just lovely models. That is an interesting situation to be in. Thank you for mentioning and sharing this. Although I would advise against any repeat statements of the type. I suppose. Not really, not yet. It's just the application I use for the music insists on connecting to the chat to... Yeah, no, I'm thinking about implementing that, but I haven't gotten to it yet. So far it just lets you know what song it's playing currently. But I did see that there is an option and I will get to it eventually. It's just that the music on this channel is more along the lines of just background. And no one that has come around yet had any ambition on actually picking out any particular songs. And I haven't even bothered making a playlist or anything like that. I just choose a style out of the presets and let it play for the duration of the stream. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I have just recently started this whole gig, and there is quite a bit that I need to learn from the technical perspective. And the overall presentation as well, but hopefully it'll come along. As you can see, I'm still struggling with even keeping the miniatures in frame. So it's not really hard to estimate my overall streamer qualities. What was I babbling about before? Ah yeah, I was just gushing over the miniatures. I think that I have about covered the subject. Oh, thanks. Thanks, I do appreciate that. Still, I am fairly firmly intent on improving things, but as with most things, it takes time. Did you just come across it, or were you actually looking for something miniatures related. In either case, you're more than welcome to stay and listen along to me babbling as I try to get some work done and hopefully get these bad boys ready for the weekend. And get them ready for the tabletop. Cool. Yeah, I just added that category recently for a wider reach. It would fit better the streams where I actually paint, but I think that this can be roughly estimated as sculpting and modeling, which would fall into the art category. Do you yourself dabble in any sort of art? I messed up. Don't worry. Oh, that's nice. Like just straight up ink? Or do you do the thing where you do the negative drawings? As in, you paint the entire sheet on which you're painting in ink, and then use various cutting tools to scrape off the ink. Me personally, I used to do some... I don't know how to quite say it. It's when you use linoleum and you carve the drawing in with cutting tools, then you smear ink all over the thing, you cover a piece of paper and you run the whole thing through a press, essentially creating a negative of the thing that you have carved as a picture. I wasn't any good at it. It was just a fun process to follow. Oh, cool! Like comic book art. Nice. It is fun. Any way that you can find to have even a piece of artistic expression, I think, is very, very important. And if I can do it with my mediocre skills on stream, then I hope that'll give courage to at least one more person to give it a go. As you can see, I have been pretty sloppy what I'm doing. And I forgot to drill the barrel. Of course I did. Could not have made the pilot hole any off-center if I actually tried. God damn it. I will fix it though. Gonna widen up the hole a little bit with this drill. I don't intend it to be particularly deep, just to give it a little bit of definition. So I don't have to paint a black dot during the painting process. Also, a lot of people look down on undrilled barrels for whatever reason. And it's something I find fun to do. It does give a bit of character to the miniature. Radio. Now I'll just use the access I wiped off. Yeah, I think so, and this is why I am doing it. But the usual alternative is to just place the black dot. Whereas what I do is I drill the bit, and then during the painting I still put the black dot inside of the gun barrel, just to give it additional definition, to simulate it being deeper than it actually is. Mostly this is a step that is skipped whenever you're painting a large army of 50 or 60 dudes, because it takes... well, it becomes a significant chunk of time. And in a case such as this, where the gun is actually pointing downward, and you're looking at something like this of an angle, you're probably never really gonna see it. But you will know, as the person who did it, that you left it out. And if you have any shred of OCD about you, that will drive you kinda crazy. It most certainly is, yeah. Although I can't say that I have it in any pronounced way, but it is that little nagging voice in the back of the head saying, you could have done that better, you know it's there, you know you should have given it 5 more minutes and done it well. In cases like this, it really is just a couple of minutes of additional meticulousness, and then you are good to go for whatever time it takes for these models to dissolve, which who the hell knows how long that is. I think they're standard plastic, so should be good for a couple 100 years at least. Just 2 more guys to go. And if you're wondering why I'm taking them all apart and then re-gluing them, it is because they actually have different weapon loadouts. Oh yeah, for sure. Totally. Currently I'm painting a different set of models, but once these are done, I'm going to get to them as well. And I have some pretty big plans to try out new techniques on them. Most notably, I will play with weathering them, because they have a lot of metallic parts, and it'll be fun to try to grime them up a little bit. Make them more weathered and grimy. Also, I will try to paint them with different skin tones, as I have mostly been doing the same flesh color over and over again for years, and I think it's way past time that I try something new. So there will be a lot of experimenting with these guys. But before that, I do have to struggle through the other minis, which are for a fantasy football tabletop game. And I will be taking them to a tournament, and therefore I need to get them ready by then. And as you can see, I'm working pretty slowly, so it takes a while to get anything done. Yeah, these are actually pieces, game pieces for tabletop games. They are not just to be placed in a display cabinet or a collection. They are actually used for a game. Yeah, it's cool you think so. I've been pretty into this type of stuff for a good half decade now. And it's gonna be quite a big tournament as well. Like, there are about 700-ish people that have already registered for it, and it'll be in October. So I am pretty excited about it. Well, not for the game that these minis are for anyway, the other ones that I'm painting right now. So essentially I get to build them, paint them, and play with them. The fun never ends. And the reason I'm taking them all apart and re-putting them together, as you can see, I have pinned the shoulders, and my idea was to make the arms swappable so I can put different weapons on them, but as I'm using sticky tack to hold them together, they don't hold well enough and they fall apart, and so I just gave up and decided to glue them together. So this is essentially a damage control. Oh yeah. I'm going with a couple of friends. It should be a pretty pleasant experience. We went on last year's tournament as well, and it's essentially a 3-day tournament. You get to play quite a few games, meet new people that share the same interest as you. And it works very well to forget your everyday woes and just nerd out. Oh no, no, I did not. I am not very good at the game. I think that out of 6 games, I only won 1 game. But for this year, I am practicing, so hopefully I'll do better. Because we are going as a team, and I would hate to bring everyone down on the scoreboard with my ineptitude. And there is quite a bit of skill to go along with these games, even though they are mostly dice driven. There is still a lot of risk management, so creating situations in which you need to roll the least amount of dice or roll them in a way that is the most favorable for you as possible. And it really becomes a game of risk management, and that is a fun twist to it. It also helps to learn some basic statistics and odds. Yeah, pretty much. It is a derivative of that system. Much more simplified, of course, and much more linear. It's essentially, if you can imagine American football being played by goblins and orcs and trolls and the type. So you play on a board that is made to look like a football pitch. That is divided into squares for your movement estimations, and you try and pick up the ball, do passes, beat up the opposing team, and eventually score touchdowns. There is also a digital version of it, so the game is called Blood Bowl, if that rings any bells. And the PC version, I've been playing around with it, and I also have some streams of it. So if you're curious to find out more about it, you can just go back into my VODs and take a look. And to my surprise, there is quite a bit of an international following, considering the history of the game. As in, it was discontinued. What? So it's about 30 years old in total. And it was discontinued in the early 2000s. A couple of years ago, the company that manufactured the models initially decided to revive it. But in the meanwhile, a lot of third-party miniature casters took it upon themselves to keep creating teams and models. And also there was an international organization that was founded by fans, and they help organize tournaments, they help update the rules to make the game playable. It's a very dedicated community and it has a very, very nice fan base, as in the people that play it are usually pretty nice. I've always had fun and very good experiences. whenever I met someone who played this game. And even in the backwards country that I live in, we managed to make a very small group to make our own little leagues. It's just like in Dungeons and Dragons, your players collect experience and you can give them more skills, make them faster, make them stronger, give them skills, all the good stuff. And the models that I'm building right now are for a game that's like XCOM for the PC. So you have your squad, you have a certain number of actions per character, and you climb different obstacles, you shoot at them again. You can do it in a campaign-like format in which they gain experience, you buy different weapons for them. And to be honest, it's a perfectly viable way to kill off Saturday afternoon if you're not up to hitting the streets. Just nerd out a little bit with like-minded dudes and dudettes. Alright, so just one more dude left. And I will be good to go. These bases are also very fun. Usually what you get is just a flat piece of black plastic. For these guys, they actually went all the way and gave us detailed sculpts. It'll be very fun to paint them, creating an industrial factory-like vibe to them. So again, a lot of opportunities to use oils or other types of technical paints to make it grimy and just bring it to life. Well, aside from the obvious metallics, I will probably paint them with mostly silver metallics, and then I will tint the metallic in different shades. So I will probably use brown and red to create a rusty feel overall, and then I will put some more diluted paints to emphasize the details here and here, like as if there was an oil streak that was running through them. Yeah, mostly just the silver metallics. Here and there, maybe some copper, just to break up the monotony. Haven't really figured out the whole paint scheme yet. I've been more or less rushed to just put them together so we can have a test game to fill out the rules. And then I'll get to paint them. Otherwise, for the models themselves, I think the predominant color will be red for the armor. Simply because I haven't painted red in a while, and it's gonna be a nice change of pace from the blue that I'm currently struggling with. But yeah, there will be lots of room to play around and experiment, both with colors as in palette and as in techniques. I might try crackles, which is a technique where you paint a layer of a certain color, for instance rust, then over it you paint the actual color, let's say red or something, and then you peel off the top layer of the paint so that it would expose something like chipping paint effect. I haven't ever used that one yet. And for it to work, you just place some sort of mediums in between the two layers of paint. The classic one being hairspray, as it sort of acts like a varnish to the lower layer of paint, and it makes it so that once you scrape off the top layer, it doesn't damage the underpaint. Theoretically, it should work fine. In practice, I have no idea. But it's been done for decades by scale model builders, so it should be a solid enough result. Oh, so I will look up some industrial and factory-like pictures just to get an overall feel of what I want to achieve. And then try to emulate it. With paints. Plain old acrylic paints. And I'm also trying out this different type of glue that I haven't been using so far. That it comes out in a gel-like consistency instead of the usual liquid. I gotta say I'm pretty happy with the results. It sort of helps fill in gaps where the pieces don't come together completely flush, which will help out the painting process afterwards. Although I might need to apply some other materials to fill in the gaps when this dries. So far I'm pretty happy with the results. The only thing is that it comes out with a whole lot of excess. So I suppose I'll burn through them pretty quickly. A little bit more. This is a pretty heavy arm and I don't want it snapping off.
Looking forward to stipulation. Watch it sweet now across the nation. Following your steps and not mine. Now who's gonna be left behind?
And it doesn't dry super quick, so you have some actual time to to fit the pieces before the glue sets in.
Nowadays, I see
Well, maybe not that much time.
as a number. Does it feel now to be written down, signed off?
So when in doubt, just slap more on.
Romeo and Juliet will burn until we expire. Romeo and Juliet, what number you? Romeo and Juliet, what's your burning desire?
Alright.
Romeo and Juliet.
And that just leaves me to glue it to the base. Just want to do it in such a way that I will have access to this cog here. Usually I wouldn't glue the model to the base before painting them because it will make it easier later, but since I have to get them ready for play, I should make an exception in this case.
Romeo and Juliet, what number you? Romeo and Juliet, what's your burning desire?
Yeah, pretty decent. I do say so myself. Ah, shit, I should have put the lid on. I guess I won't be doing the gap filling today. It's been a while that this stream has been going on. let these guys dry off. Get the glue set in. And tomorrow I'll probably continue painting. Unless something else comes up. But yeah, again, if any of this sparked your interest, feel free to give me a follow or check in back to one of the VODs where I actually paint or play the game. It would be nice to have you along for the long run. That's cool, thanks.
Giving up on a dream, you know that ain't no way to live. And I don't wanna be ordinary, got too much to give. Rain fill my reason and wipe off the dust. My heart is jet fuel.
Yeah, I'm not playing the tabletop. I'm not streaming the tabletop. I'm streaming the PC version of the game. But still, if you think that'd be interesting, please come on over. I'm thinking about streaming tabletop as well. However, it would require a very intricate setup of cameras and lighting, and it'll be a bit of a pain to set up. And until I have an actual firm idea of how to make it work, I wouldn't jump into it just yet. But it's in the works. I'm considering it. Because I've seen quite a few streams of tabletop and they mostly just don't look right. Either they don't represent the models correctly or, well, correctly, visibly enough. Or the game isn't being explained properly. Or there is no separate camera for the dice. Either way, it will require a significant amount of cameras, which I don't have right now. So yeah, ideas are abundant. Their execution, not so much. And just as I say that, I notice that I forgot this guy's shoulder pad. I can't imagine why this song is royalty free. Is there any possible way I can Alright, that's good enough. Alrighty, well, that'll be it from me for tonight. Thanks very much for sticking along. Hopefully, we'll meet again in chat. And until then, to all that have been lurking in the background or have joined us, have a lovely rest of your evening or day or whatever it is where you are right now. I've been Goliath, and this is me signing off. Bye bye.